Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Our first royal news comes from NBC Online, dated January the 4th, 2025. Royal family pays tribute to New Orleans attack victim, stepson of nanny to Prince William and Harry. This is by Max Berman. The royal family paid tribute Saturday to the British man killed in the New Orleans truck ramming attack. A 31-year-old who was the stepson of Prince William and Prince Harry's former nanny. Edward Pettifer was among 14 people killed when an ISIS-inspired U.S. Army veteran drove his truck into a crowd of revelers on New Year's Day, his family confirmed on Saturday. The entire family are devastated at the tragic news of Ed's death in New Orleans. He was a wonderful son, brother, grandson, nephew, and a friend to so many, the family said in a statement issued by London's Metropolitan Police. We all miss him terribly. Our thoughts are with the other families who have lost their family members due to this terrible attack. We request that we can grieve the loss of Ed as a family in private, it added. Pettifer, from the West London neighborhood of Chelsea, was the stepson of Alexandra Pettifer. She cared for the sons of King Charles III in the 1990s, when she was widely known as Tiggy Leg Bork. Charles was deeply saddened after being made aware of Edward Pettifer's death through official channels and has been in touch with the family to share personal condolences, a Buckingham Palace source said. William, heir to the throne, said that Catherine and I have been shocked and saddened by the tragic death of Ed Pettifer. In a post on X, he said that our thoughts and prayers remain with the Pettifer family and all those innocent people who have been tragically impacted by this horrible attack. All but one of the victims of the truck ramming attack have now been identified by the New Orleans coroner's office. A female whose identity is unknown was announced as the final victim. Efforts to identify her are ongoing, according to the coroner's office. All 14 victims died from blunt force trauma on Bourbon Street, the coroner's office said. 7 of the victims lived in Louisiana, 2 were from Mississippi, 1 was from Alabama, 1 was from New York, and 1 was from New Jersey. News that the Briton was killed in the attack emerged as authorities revealed that Shamsuddin Jabbar had planned to use a transmitter to detonate 2 explosive devices he had placed nearby. Neither of the explosive devices were detonated, and it remains unclear whether the failure was due to a malfunction, lack of activation, or another issue. Story 2 comes from the Daily Mail Online, December 31st, 2024. The night Queen Elizabeth dropped into a homeless shelter before heading down the River Thames to join Tony Blair to open one of his pet projects, the Millennium Dome, by Ian Lloyd. The Queen, dressed in a cheerful apricot-colored coat and accompanied by Prince Philip, was shown around the shelter by Shax Gaush, the chief executive of Crisis at the time. In the sitting room, she met Mouse, injured after a fall, who held on to his can of special brew as he met the monarch. The Queen seemed to know my name, and she knew I had broke my hip, and she said I hoped I got better, he said at the time. It has really made my day. The royal couple also met one of the shelter's success stories. Peter Davies, a reformed alcoholic, had used the Southwark shelter as a few years before, and by the Queen's visit had moved into a flat in northwest London. He told the monarch that Crisis had saved his life. I came in here 4 years ago, and I was dying, he said. Crisis saved me. They put me in the hospital and housed me and enabled me to cope. If it wasn't for all the people who work for them, I would still be on the streets, or more likely I would be dead by now. He presented the Queen with a poem he had written about his life called Living Inside a Bottle. Some of the other residents were unfazed by the celebrity visit, continued talking and even dancing around in the room in front of the royal couple, who took it all in their stride. Afterwards, the Queen and the Duke were joined on a royal launch by Princess Anne and her husband Tim Lawrence for a stately procession downstream to Tower Bridge. Here she eventually lit the rain-soaked National Millennium Beacon after a minute of trying. As the flame disappeared and then came back to life, the Queen was heard exclaiming, "I thought it had blown out." The royal party disembarked at Greenwich, where they entered the Millennium Dome, clinked glasses of champagne as the chimes of midnight sounded, and sang Auld Lang Syne. Although Tony Blair had trumpeted the opening of the dome would be the greatest show on earth, the Queen was clearly out of her comfort zone. Blair's chief press secretary, Alistair Campbell, later claimed, the monarch at least managed the odd smile, while the others looked very peed off to be there. The Princess Royal in particular was like granite. Some of the discomfort may have been caused by the lack of heat in the cavernous dome. It was pretty clear, said Campbell, they would rather be sitting under their travel rugs at Balmoral. This is doubtful, as the rest of the royal family was, as always, seeing the New Year at Sandringham. The visit to the crisis wasn't the Queen's first visit to a homeless shelter. In May 1993, a month before Diana first took William to the Passage to meet London's homeless, his grandmother visited a similar center in Hungary. The Queen and Prince Philip were on a 4-day visit to the country, the first by a British monarch to be a former Warsaw Pact nation. The visit was covered by over 250 accredited journalists, mostly from the host nation. Since the Queen's grandmother, Queen Mary, was the granddaughter of the Hungarian Countess Claudine Rudi, Elizabeth was celebrated as one of us by the local press, even though she was only 1/16th Hungarian. After addressing the country's parliament, the Queen toured a Wesleyan hostel which provided a nighttime shelter to 50 men in Budapest. The Hungarian press noted that while the politicians complained that the Queen was visiting one of the poorest districts of Budapest, and even a homeless shelter, the visit was a positive one, with locals cheering her arrival and the visit overrunning as she took time to meet as many of the residents as possible. As with her Millennium Night visit to Crisis Center years later, it was clear that beside meeting politicians and dignitaries, the Queen was keen to factor in time to meet those who lived rough. It helped her to better understand the day-to-day challenges faced by the marginalized and vulnerable, helping to pave the way for Prince William's personal crusade to end homelessness. Our third story comes from the Daily Mail, dated December 27, 2024. The royals seem to have a solution for when they run out of beds and turn to the staff members' bedroom for assistance. This is the story about Sandringham and the sleepovers they have there during the Christmas holiday. In fact, in previous years, I've been told they've actually had to kick staff out of their quarters, Rebecca revealed. Aunt Edward and Sophie were put in some of the staff quarters because they had nowhere else to stay. Sitting beside the Mail's Richard Eden, Rebecca admitted it sounds more glamorous than it is. She added that how she was told the beds are like what they call fish finger beds. The royal editor went on to describe them as old-fashioned beds with really creaky bed springs at the bottom. Earlier in the show, Richard Eden explained why it's not public knowledge exactly how many bedrooms are in Sandringham House. Sandringham is one of those private estates. It's huge. I mean, there are about 700 homes in total on the estate. It's massive, he said. The diary editor noted in Sandringham House itself, because it's a private residence, we don't know exactly how many bedrooms are there, for example. Richard Eden revealed there are thought to be about 30 bedrooms in Sandringham House, but that means, yes, there will be a lot of members of the royal family staying there this Christmas, and it does mean it's great fun. You got that huge extended family opening presents together and things like that. The festive period for the royals traditionally involves opening gifts on Christmas Eve and a nod to their German origins. They are often small and light-hearted gifts rather than flamboyant, and the presents are labeled and laid out on a table for the guests to open. And our final story comes from the New York Post, dated January the 3rd, 2025. Royal Family Live updates. King Charles, Prince William won't attend Jimmy Carter's funeral. The Duke of Edinburgh, a.k.a. Prince Edward, will honor Carter at his funeral on January 9th at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. The news was announced in the royal family's official diary. Carter passed away December 29th. He was 100. It's understood that there is not precedence for heads of state to attend funerals of former presidents. As one of the most senior members of the royal family, the attendance of Charles' youngest brother, 60, is meant to show respect for the American people. Edward, who is the 14th in line for the throne, has had an increasingly public profile since Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped down from their roles as senior working royals in 2020. Though King Charles won't be among those at the National Cathedral, President-elect Trump has announced that he will attend. King Charles paid tribute to Carter following the former president's passing. It was with great sadness that I learned of the death of former President Carter, the king said in a statement shared Sunday on social media. He was a committed public servant and devoted his life to promoting peace and human rights. His dedication and humility served as an inspiration to many, and I remember with great fondness his visit to the United Kingdom in 1977. The sovereign added, "My thoughts and prayers are with President Carter's family and the American people at this time." I hope everybody enjoyed the video, and if you did, if you would give it a thumbs up, it would be greatly appreciated. It'll help my channel to continue to grow. And I wish everyone a good day, and tune in again soon for another episode of Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Thank you.